The only thing is the customer has to be paying for that level of service. You can't be taking out seats or taking off plastic pieces if the customer is not paying for that level of service. Like, that's just not fair for yourself. Like, why are you going to do all that extra work, all the extra liability of removing bolts and removing wires and disconnecting things? And it's like you're not even charging the proper amount to do that work. Welcome back to the Detailing Business Class podcast, where you'll learn proven tactics and strategies on sales, marketing, and operations to grow your business. I'm your host, Oscar Gill, and my goal is to elevate you as a detailer and business owner to the next level. Today, I'm answering your questions. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I sometimes post those Q&As on my Instagram stories where you can ask me whatever questions. And today, I'm actually going to answer those questions on the podcast. So it's a wide spectrum of questions like, is it okay to still use a customer's power and water? What's been one of the toughest days in your business? And why did it take us so long to get into PPF? So a bunch of questions, you'll learn something. Just stick with me on this episode. And really quick is if you want to learn directly how we've grown our business to over $10,000 per month, you can go to detailclass.com or click the link down in the show notes or in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube and sign up for the free training. You'll see how I went from a struggling detailer to a booked out detailer and the marketing that went behind it. Just go to detailclass.com. Let's go ahead and get started with this episode. And welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started with these questions. These are in no particular order. I'm just kind of scanning them and seeing which one is kind of interesting. So this one right here from Mr. Danny R. Detailer says, what took you so long to show interest in PPF? It's one of those things where you really have to decide, this is kind of in the way, you really have to decide what is a priority or what's an opportunity and what's a distraction, right? Because in your business, you can always find things to start or to add or to offer in your business that at face value, it looks good. For instance, like, yeah, of course we want to add more services. Of course we want to go mobile. Of course we want to have a shop. Of course we want to offer more services. And you really have to prioritize what makes most sense at the given time. So if, you know, what you offer and what you do is going to be different from when you're first getting started to when you have your first helper to when you have your first full-time employee to when you're at $15,000 a month, when you're at $25,000 a month, when you go from mobile to shop, from shop and you add a mobile unit. Like, there's phases to where you are in your business. So you can go back to the older videos and you'll see that I at some point mentioned something about like we might do PPF. That's something that we might do in the future. But at the time, I was just more focused on doing what we were doing better, right? Which is just, you know, depending, again, which timeline you're looking at. We're in the timeline. That could have been me being a mobile detailer. That could have been me and Lex being mobile detailer. That could have been us getting our shop for the first time. So, I wouldn't say that what took you so long. It's more so of you have to be a bit more strategic of where you play your cards, right? As far as what you're going to do. And this is going to look different for every single individual. Some people might offer this from the very get-go. Others might never offer it. Others might just sub it out. Like there's so many ways that you can go about adding a new service or doing things in your business. So we're here now. We're working towards getting Angel trained for PPF, and then he's going to come back here and train us. He's also going to go get vinyl training, car wrapping, and he's going to come back and train us. So so we're moving that in that direction. Also, I want to actually point out. Actually, I'll wait for another podcast to make that video. But real quick though is that there's a lot of people saying that it's a bad idea on that we should send Angel to training. Let me just make a little note here. A lot of people are saying it's a bad idea to send Angel to training because he's just going to leave. And with that kind of mentality, it's like if you play the what if game on what can happen, you can easily paint whatever picture you want in your head, right? Like for instance, yeah, if and this can literally work for anything. Oh yeah, if you send Angel, he's going to leave you. It's like, okay, yeah, it's like, so what if you send him to training and he leaves? Okay, he leaves. What if we send him to training and he stays here for 3 years? What if we send him to training and we don't get any customers? What if we send them to training and our business completely blows up? What if we send them to training and we still cut a cut on the customer's pain? What if we send them to training and like if you play the what if game, you can win or lose however you see fit, right? Like so it's I'm not really looking at what if that, what if this. I'm like, dude, what if tomorrow a meteor hits planet Earth and I'm the only survivor? Then what? Like I don't know, bro. Like it's you kind of make the best calls that you can at that given time, and that's just the best thing that you do. So anyways, I'll hold off on that for another episode, so I can go kind of deep pause in that talking about that, and I'll actually have Angel and Lex on the next episode to kind of go a bit more in depth in that. Okay, so next one here is from Manier.detailing. What was your toughest day? So a very broad question. And that could be looked at in different ways, right? So I mean, some of the hardest detailing days was definitely when I was on my own, just because that's you dealing with all the work, right? Dealing with the customers, dealing with the communication, dealing with the schedule, doing the details, prepping the vehicle. So I'd say as far as the hardest details that I've done have been on my own. Now, that is not to say that we haven't had some rough goes in the field with a team or for me and Lex, but for sure, like I probably one of the toughest detailing days. And it's probably like more so in a lot of them were like in the early phases, right? Like doing corrections outside in the parking lot, you know, of a hotel, not having all the tools and products. The busiest day I had, I think, as far as number of vehicles, I think I did like 4 vehicles in one day, and 3 were at one location. And 1 or 2, I forget, it was a while ago, but I think it was like 2 at one location, 1 at another location, and then another one at another location, all from the same customer, but I went to 2 or 3 different locations. And I kid you not, from 8 a.m. to like 7:30 p.m., I was literally just like moving, trying to knock out all these cars in one day. I think for that day, it was like $850, I believe. No break. And it was straight just go the entire time. So that was a tough day for sure. And again, like that's also a different question, because, you know, tough days can also be when that one time when we had the employee just like leave midday, and I just like jumped in the van and we headed to the customer, and then that customer's job ended up being very bad. And I hadn't eaten all day. It was very hot. It was a long day. I wasn't able to get to any of my work. So that was a tough day. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been tough days, like 100%, whether it's physically or mentally, as far as like very frustrated or just not in a good mental zone as far as like how things are going. Like 100%, everyone goes through that. So yeah, good question though. Okay, so next question here is from Sky Detailing was there a mentality or habit that you have changed the more successful you're getting? So on that one, and that's kind of like I always read those questions with a little grain of salt when it's like the more successful you get, because I think you start in order, and this is not this is not me, this is anyone, all right? You that's listening to this episode, this applies to you. This is you. Is if you're successful at something, I would say like you already have some habits or characteristics that got you to that point, you know? So like for me, if I say, yeah, so what helped me be successful is that I'm consistent. I try to learn and be better. I have no ego towards anything. And, you know, I'll do my best every time. So if I was doing that, you know, 5 years ago, I was also doing that 3 years ago. I was also doing that 1 year ago, and I'm doing that right now. And that's what I'll be doing 2 years from now, you know? So, so that's, you know, that's kind of like, I think, you know, I could be wrong, because there are some people that kind of just get a bit of money or see a bit more success and I guess change up a little bit. But, yeah, as far as the mentality or habits, I mean, and that's I can make a whole different episode on this one too. So I'll actually highlight this, and I'll kind of talk about what I think has helped me the most but has helped me kind of build the good habits and such, as to why I am where I am. But to answer this one kind of quickly is, you know, being it's gonna sound so boring, right? So mundane, so like you've heard this 1,000 times. But consistency, discipline, of showing up every day, and I really take to heart of having the no ego thing. If there's something I need to learn, if there's something I don't know, if there's something I'm not sure of, if there's something I'm not confident in, I don't have the sense of pride or ego to say that I don't know, or that I need to figure it out, or that I need help, or that, whatever the case may be. So with those 3-4 things, I mean, that's like I would say it's like a very fundamental thing to anyone being successful of any kind. Good days, bad days, when you feel like it or not, like it's important to show up and to do your very best. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean every single day that you're just going to be hitting it out the park, right? There might be a time where I'm not feeling well, whether it's like I'm being sick or just mentally I'm kind of like tired and I need a break. I might show up, and that might look like I send a few emails to customers and I post an Instagram post, right? That might be showing up for that day. There's other days where we might book in 5 cars and we might service 4 vehicles and we might make $1,000 and I might post a YouTube video, right? So it's going to vary, again, depending on where you are, what you're doing. But it is showing up even when things aren't going your way, because that leads to consistency. You can't be great when you want. Like it's always better to just be consistent than having those little short bursts of days where like you're doing great and then you go on a steep downhill. Like just it's consistency helps a lot in developing habits or into getting better experience. So one thing for sure, I could say, like, even when I had a full-time job, when I had 2 jobs, like I was staying consistent the best I could, right? Relative to like how much time I had and what I had to do to work on my website, to work on my SEO, to schedule cars in, right? I'm not saying that every hour of the day I was doing that, but the available time that I had in between working the 2 jobs, I would still work on my business. But that's a good question. I'll definitely make another episode on that and break it down even more. Okay, so next question here is, what kind of job or project takes you to Tennessee? So just not this past weekend, but from Tuesday to Thursday, I was in Nashville, Tennessee with Jobber. They flew me out over there. And they're launching a new podcast, which this episode will come out far before the Jobber podcast. So one thing we're gonna do is they're gonna do it's called like a podcast takeover, where one of the episodes that I shot in Nashville with Jobber, I'll upload it here. That way you guys can listen to it on this podcast, and then if you want to catch the other episodes, you can go check out the Jobber podcast. But it was for a podcast. And it was cool. It was a good experience. The studio was very professional. And it kind of gave me some ideas of like how I could kind of remake this little studio, or in the future I can remake our studio to make it look a little better. Which it's one of those things where, and this is a great example of like doing the kind of work and running the kind of operation that you want. Because realistically, I mean, do I need if you're watching this on YouTube, do I need this Rode Procaster Pro, I think it's called? Do I need this like $600 unit? Probably not. Do I need, if there's a guest with me here, do I need 2 cameras rolling? We could probably do it with 1. And I want to get a 3rd camera. That way there could be 3 angles. And it's like, do I really need all that? It's like, no, probably not. And it's like, did I have to soundproof this room? And it's like, probably not. But it's like, this is the level that I want to take the podcast. And this is the level that I want to operate with what we do. So it's like, that's what I want. Like I would like to have a 3rd camera. I would like to have a better studio that looks cooler. Like that just, is it really necessary? Is it really going to like dramatically change the podcast? And like, oh my God, like, there's a 3rd camera, so now we're going to get 10 times a view. Like, no, but this is just the level that I want to operate at. And that kind of falls into everything else. Like, do you have to run a business where you're super professional and you're very punctual and that, you're on top of things? It's like, well, technically, no, but like, that's the level we're going to operate at. Like, we want to be on time to customers' appointments. We want to make sure the customer is taken care of. We want to make sure that they enjoy the services. We want to make sure that, so like technically, do you have to do that? No, but that's simply the level that we operate at. So just a little interesting to point out. Next question from Alex is, how many trucks do you have for the business? So we only have technically, we have two company vehicles. We have my original 2009 HHR panel. That is Mr. That's milk truck. That's what we call it. Except we're currently wrapping it to this matte brushed red vinyl, and so we're gonna turn it into a fire truck. But we have that one. That's paid off for. The only thing we pay for is just gas and the commercial auto insurance. And then we have the 2015 Ram ProMaster, the Ram 1500. What is it called? The Ram 1500 ProMaster. That one we purchased for, I think, like $20,000 or $21,000. I think there is like $8,000 left on the car note, I think. And that obviously gas and commercial auto insurance. So just to think, I highly doubt we'll get another van now that we're kind of shifting gears and to how we're running our business. I do not think we'd get another vehicle. And eventually, I mean, if again, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just like, I can see a point where like because right now we're like maybe 25% mobile work now. So there's definitely a path to where we're like 5% mobile work and like we're really just all at the shop for the most part. So it'll be interesting to see what we do with the van if it comes to that point. Okay, so good question. Next up here is, I can't read the full name because it got cut off. Or no, is it? One Ill Detail. I believe that's the whole name. So what's an easy next step after washing a car to level up your business? Well, anytime I get asked that kind of question, like what do I do next to grow my business? It's like, what kind of business do you want? What are your goals? What do you want out of life? What do you want? What do you want your day to look like? What does success look like to you? Does it necessarily mean you have to grow the business? Do you have to go from 2,000 to 5,000? Do you go to 5,000 to 12,000, 12,000 to 25,000, 25,000 to 40,000? Like, what does success look like to you? So what's the next step to level up your business? It's like, well, what do you specifically want? Not everyone wants to have a super busy schedule. Not everyone wants to work 5 days out of the week. Not everyone wants to have that mindset of like grow. If that means you have to work more hours and have more stress and manage employees and have more bills, like that's not for everyone. No right or wrong answer. It's just like, what do you want out of business? But aside from that, I mean, a easy answer I can give is like, get more customers, right? Get more leads. Focus on your marketing. Get your phone to ring more. Get more email submission forms. So that's the easy one. But this is really like what do you want out of it? All right, so next question from Mr. Jose. It says, is it bad if I'm still using customers' water and electricity? Been on for a year. No, not at all. I mean, I literally used the customer's power and water for about 7 years as a mobile detailer when I was on my own. Now, I did have a generator in my HHR panel, and it would definitely help out to have power. But if I was at 80% of the time, I would end up at a customer's home location. So it was super easy to just hook up to their power and water. And no, I kid, like not one time ever did I ever have a customer complain about me using their power or water. Even till this day, in 2023, when we have our Ram ProMaster with a 100-gallon water tank, with an 8750 generator, with all the reels and machines that we need, customers still tell us, hey, by the way, if you need water, it's right there. If you need an electrical plug, it's over there. If you need an extension cord, it's over there. Like, they still help us out by saying, hey, if you need anything, let us know. So it's never been a problem for us. If you do have a customer that is somewhat complaining or hesitant to let you use their power and water, really ask yourself, is that the kind of customer you want to work with? Probably not. So good question there. Next question is from Foreign Auto Care. Do you remove seats if the interior needs a deep cleaning? Okay, yeah, so we actually do. I've made some videos in the past where we don't move seats, and most of the vehicles that we work on, we don't remove seats. But if it's that level of service that we are going to remove the seats that really need it, we will. But the big caveat to this, though, is if you're going to remove seats, one, the customer has to be paying for. Actually, the only thing is the customer has to be paying for that level of service. You can't be taking out seats or taking off plastic pieces if the customer is not paying for that level of service. Like, that's just not fair for yourself. Like, why are you going to do all that extra work, all the extra liability of removing bolts and removing wires and disconnecting things, And it's like you're not even charging the proper amount to do that work, right? I mean, I get so many comments of like, these people don't even remove seats. It's like, all right, like we 100% will, but what we're gonna add is extra work and is extra like things that we're gonna do just because like what that we feel like we should, that it's the right thing. Don't get me wrong, like we want to do the best work that we can, but that doesn't just mean, hey, don't worry about it, man. We're going to do everything for free because we want to give you the best service. So even if you're not going to pay for that level of service, we're still going to jack up your car. We're still, as far as like jack it up on stands, we're still going to remove your wheels. We're going to clean the inner barrels. We're going to clean your suspension. And don't worry, I know you're paying for a $50 wash, but we're going to do, because that's the right thing to do. Of course not. No, they have to pay for that level of service. Okay, so next question from Cardos. That's literally the username. He has a YouTube channel. He actually made a video on my video, so go check him out. It says, have you ever Ubered a customer from your shop to their spot? For what? For those without a ride. Yeah. So we've done that a few times, meaning maybe a customer like lives down the street, so they'll come drop off their vehicle. We'll jump in the van, the HHR or the 4Runner, and we'll drive them back. Like it literally has to be like within like 10 minutes of a drive. Other times is they'll just Uber themselves. We've never paid for the Uber. So typically if someone gets Ubered, it's because they paid that themselves. Or if they're within the like really close area, we'll just drop them off. But as far as us, like, hey, we're going to pay for your Uber. No, we've never done that. Okay. So, all right, next question is, how many cars do you detail per week? And that's from jm.detailcars. So this one this is one that's always going to be changing because it might be, you know, if we have a correction and coating and like a smoke odor removal, those are a bit more intensive jobs, so they'll take a little longer, so they take up more time on the schedule versus like, let's say we just had like nothing but like maintenance work, like washes and basic interior cleanings. I mean, you can get like, you know, 20 cars on the schedule. So it just depends on what we're working on. But give or take, I mean, as a general like number, you could look at around like 8 to 12 to 14. Again, it just depends on what all we're doing. Moving forward into, and again, like it never focus on like how many cars did you do, right? Because what's more important, like how much revenue did you generate? How much profit was in those vehicles, right? What were the margins on those vehicles? It's not just saying, well, I did 14 vehicles. Like that is just a vanity metric. Like, so what? What's the context behind that? You did 20 vehicles, but each one was $100. Like, congrats. That's $2,000. Or what did I just say? I don't know. We get the point where it's like you could do 10 cars at $100. Okay, that's $1,000. Or you could do 2 cars at $4,000, and that's $8,000. You see what I'm saying? But as I was about to say, is moving into vinyl and PPF, that could definitely change because the average ticket price of those are much higher than just detailing alone. So if we're right now doing 8 to 12 cars per week, I mean, moving into the future with focusing on correction coatings, PPF, and vinyl, I mean, that could go down to like 2 cars a week, 3 cars a week. And that's because although you're dropping the number of vehicles you're working on, the ticket price balloons up to, you know, 1,200, 2,400, 4,400. And that's like, you know, so obviously you're doing much less volume, but the revenue per vehicle is like way higher than just doing a bunch of like, you know, interior cleanings or wash and waxes or like things of, you know, services of that category. But I'll go ahead and end it right there. I'll be making a more thorough podcast on some of the questions that I got here because they were good questions. I can really dive deep into those. So thank you very much. I'll talk to you on the next one.